Ooh, welcome back to the Boneyard podcast, everybody. This is your host, Jared Shaffett, along with my good friend
Artemis, bro.
We're coming to you this week with episode 202. 202.
Tell them about it.
202 episodes already.
Tell them about it.
Wow. That's a big number. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. No complaints. This week is kind of going by pretty fast. It's been a normal week. I can't really complain anything about this week. I got to be in office tomorrow, but nothing to really complain about. It's been a steady. We got the 4th of July coming up soon. We got good weekends. It's summertime vibes. Be outside, go to the pool, go to the lake, go to the beach, go do whatever. It's summertime vibes, so we're good.
Yeah, I need to get like a good pool day in.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I just went to a pool for the whole day. Just have a pool day.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Usually we're beach or lake people. We love the pool, but we just haven't been to a pool. So
the amount of time that I went to the pool as a young Jared,
it's a lot.
Was a lot. I mean, I was at the pool every single day throughout the summer.
I mean, what were you, if you weren't at the pool, what were you doing? When it got hot in Greenville, what was you doing if you wasn't at the pool?
Oh, I mean, I'm not even talking Greenville. I'm talking like
high school too?
Like we had a membership at the local pool at Arcadia Pool down in Davidson County. That's where all the kids went, the cool kids, right? They had a wait list. You had to get on a wait list to get access to the pool. Then you had a membership, and then you would eat these everybody. You'd see everybody. It was like everybody from school just went, right? And if you had buddies that had a membership at Midway or Welcome, then that's where you went with them. Like one day, if you're hanging out with them, guess what? You go to their pool. They're hanging out with you. They come to your pool. And it was just an all-time great time as a young kid. Like, I mean, just I still think about like my parents, my mom would give me like $5, $10, and I was like, okay, that I was rich.
You're established.
Right? I would.
I can't look. Jared in 2003 could do a lot with $10. All right, established.
Your grandparents just drop you off at the pool. Your parents just drop you off at the pool at 8 a.m. And guess what? You're there until they get off work. That's just what I did all summer long. And I'll say the lunch, I ate the same thing pretty much every day at the pool for lunch. It was like this little mini frozen pizza that you would put in a microwave.
I know exactly. Little personal pizzas they would give you.
Yeah, like a deep dish little personal pizza.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'd have one of those, and I would have a Cheerwine slushie. And if I had a couple,
we had Cheerwine slushies.
I was at a bougie pool.
I was about Cheerwine slushies.
Yeah, we had Cheerwine slushies, and that's where my addiction to Cheerwine began.
Wow.
And then if I was lucky, or if I hustled some, we'd play cards. We'd play all kinds of cards at the pool when it was like adult only swim time, and they made all the kids get out of the pool. We'd be playing cards, and we'd be playing for money,
betting on goldfish and fruit snacks.
Oh yeah, and if you want a little bit of money, if I want a little bit of money, I'd go buy myself a cowtail.
I never liked cowtails. You missed me on that.
It was either I can't remember what, they didn't have like candy bars. It was just like that was the closest thing to a candy bar that they had.
Yeah. What's that one? God, I'm blanking on it. It's the chocolate one. Yeah, you gotta unroll it in the little wrapper. Tootsies, whatever. Tootsie Rolls.
Ugh.
Those were terrible too. Them, yeah.
See, I loved anything with like the caramel and the cream in the middle. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that.
Say it again, Jared.
Caramel and cream in the middle.
This is not a PG show.
Boneyard After Dark. Artie, episode 202. Do you have a number 2 for me?
I do have number 2. And my number 2, since I know you're not going with this number 2, you're choosing somebody different. So I'm going to go with the number 2.
Did you hear me talking about my number 2 before?
No, I did not. Is he from Atlanta?
I don't think so.
Then he's not the same. He's not the same. Or did he play for Atlanta?
No, he didn't play a team sport.
We don't have the same number 2. Yeah. But I'm going with Jared's favorite number 2, the guy who he thinks should be in the Hall of Fame.
He should be.
And that's one right. That's my number 2 for the week in honor of Jared Shavin, in honor of a guy who I don't believe should be in the Hall of Fame, but he did have a very, 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 very good career. That is one Matt Ryan, not Super Bowl, NFL MVP. Went to a Super Bowl. We're not going to talk about it. We all know what happened in that Super Bowl. We all know. We're not going to touch on it. But phenomenal career in Atlanta. Not probably the greatest quarterback in the history of Atlanta Falcons sports. And they also had a Michael Vick, who I think, personally, I'm a Michael Vick guy, but he is the best quarterback in Atlanta Falcons history. So my number 2 is Michael Ryan. He's not a Hall of Famer, though. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Josh, what you got?
Am I on? My fault.
I thought Josh was about to drop some bombs.
What the hell? I was like, all right, what's Josh got to drop? Okay.
I thought Josh was dropping some knowledge on this.
Wiping his forehead and everything, like he'd been working up some hard thoughts.
Matty Ice, number 2. Shout out to him. Went to Boston College, so we do not like, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Ryan, when you look at his career stats, and even when you take Julio Jones out of those stats, dude was an elite quarterback. If he ever had a defense, if his team ever had a decent defense, they would have been just fine. They probably would have won a Super Bowl. We're getting text in the group chat from friend of the podcast, Brandon.
What's Brandon saying?
Just I wasn't gonna say it.
I got you, Brandon. I will say what Jared is afraid to say.
Hey, Matty Ice. He's
look. He's on the short list of guys that could have got to the Hall had they had a more promising, better career as far as accolades. But he's right there. Like he could have.
He just, like I said, he never had the team around him. But you look at the receivers that he had, and after they left Atlanta,
Roddy White and Julio Jones helped him out a lot. But
yeah. But you look at
Roddy White. Roddy White was a dude.
You look at some of the other receivers that he had around him. That he made Mohamed Sanu look like he was a world breaker.
He did make Sanu look like an all-pro wide receiver.
And that was his guy when Julio was getting double and triple teamed, right? Yeah. If I will die on the hill of if the Falcons ever had like a true stud defense, they would have won a Super Bowl. And if it wasn't for Kyle Shanahan and his terrible play calling in the Super Bowl, they would have won that Super Bowl. Terrible clock management in the second half. Just my 2 cents. All right. My number 2, this one, even though he screwed up, this one is an ode to Josh. I'm going the Blue Deuce, the OG Blue Deuce, not Brad Keselowski. I'm going Rusty Wallace out of
Rusty.
Arnold, Missouri. I mean, come on. Guy, I mean, this guy, what, 55 wins, 349 top 10s, 36 poles. I mean, Winston Cup champ, NASCAR Hall of Famer. I mean, he wasn't he wasn't like always the biggest name, but he was up there, right? Like he was always competing with the biggest names on in NASCAR. He wasn't one of the guys that would race for a couple years and then fall by the wayside. He had a good career. So yeah, and he was fiery, man. I was telling Josh, like, one of my old favorite NASCAR stories is he got fined $5,000, and his team Penske paid the fine for him, but he was so petty that he paid his fine in all pennies, $5,000 in pennies. So that's just one of my favorite NASCAR stories.
Currency, baby. It's legal tender.
Hey, I wish more people would be petty like that. I do. I wish more people were petty like that. All right, Artie. Josh, you got something for us?
I actually do have something for you. And if you're gonna say the number 2, everybody knows the Blue Deuce. That's what it's famous for. But the best driver, pound for pound, to get out of the number 2 car, not the number 3, which is what you're all gonna know, is Dale Earnhardt, a 15.79% win percentage in the number 2 car. Okay.
Wow.
Versus Rusty only having 7%. And he has the highest average start of the top 30 in terms of like number of starts. He has the top start position at, what is it, it's a 7.8. 7.8 was his average starting position.
How long did he drive the 2 car?
I was about to say that's real knowledge right there, because I didn't even know he drove the 2.
He drove it for 78 races.
Okay.
He led 2,000 laps.
That's a lot of laps.
Out of the 23,000 laps that he ran in the car.
10%.
Yeah. I mean,
quick math.
There you go. That's that ECU education right there. Show it off.
Yeah, you should. I was on a call earlier. It turns out one of my clients went to ECU, and she asked me if I went to ECU. She saw my diploma hanging up in the background, and she said, she asked me, "Did you go to ECU?" I said, "Yeah." Turns out she worked at Sub Dogs. Shout out Sub Dogs.
Subs.
But I was trying to spell something, and I just could not spell it. On a call with like 6 people. I was trying to spell Kennesaw.
Oh well, okay. Kennesaw's
tough.
You got to remember the double N's and the double S's.
I couldn't remember if it was double N and double S or if it was just double N. That was my problem.
Yeah.
So
that's a hard one. I'll give you that. That's a hard one.
I was like, that's my ECU education there. Yeah, some good number 2s. And Josh, I want you to hop back in real quick. I'm almost thinking that maybe I'm biased. Is Matt Ryan chalk?
not really. I don't think. I think Matt Ryan was a decent player. I mean, if
do I do that? Don't do that. Hey, don't disrespect Josh like that, man. Don't do that.
I'm sorry, Josh.
Justin Fields, is that a better number 2 for you?
Ooh,
that's less chalk.
Is that a better number 2? I mean, like if you think about the number 2s, like
let me explain something though. I didn't even think of Justin Fields even on the radar. When I was thinking about number 2, he wasn't even on the radar. So,
that's great. That's great. All right. This episode's going to be a little bit different. We're in the summer. We're in the thick of summer now. There's nothing going on. NBA it finally ended. NHL ended. College athletics is over. we're in prime, like, okay, it's summertime, right?
Summertime, baby.
And this episode's gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna talk some ECU here at the beginning, but in the back half, what we're gonna do is we're doing a tier, one of those tier rankings, and Josh Artie and I do not know what the topic is as of right now. If you have any ideas for topics that you want us to do, we're going to do this throughout the summer, probably a couple of times. And if we enjoy doing it, we're going to do it even more. So if you're watching, which I know a lot of people are watching right now, go ahead and drop a thing that you want us to tier, whether it's college football stadiums or unis or whatever, like along those lines.
All that, yep.
We can do them for the American Athletic Conference, college football as a whole, NFL, whatever. If there's something you want us to tier, we're gonna tier it. We're gonna debate it. We're gonna talk about it. But as of right now, like, we don't know what Josh has got planned for us. It's something with the conference, I believe, but we're gonna figure it out. Should be fun content, and we hope you enjoy it. But yeah, drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or reply to the stream on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and yeah, do that. We're excited to get into that later. But Artie, let's get into ECU right now. So right now, like I said, there's not much news going around, other than we're having schedule updates announced, right?
No.
Now, before I say that, I want to say there is stuff going on at ECU, because we won't get into it. I just want to give a shout out. Coach Houston and staff are killing it on the recruiting trail. Absolutely killing it right now. I mean, I think we're ranked 3rd in the conference for the 2025 recruiting class. Granted, it's super early, but they are absolutely pounding pavement, getting in guys, bringing in studs. Just saw that a top 85 tight end nationally just committed to ECU. So just shout out to ECU and Coach Houston and the coordinators and all the whole staff. I mean, it's a team effort to do that.
They are coaching and recruiting like they're about to get fired tomorrow, and I love it. they are out here,
pants on fire, man. Pants on fire,
man. They out here recruiting and coaching like their life depends on it, and I love it. Love it.
For sure. Okay. As far as schedule updates, though, we got some for basketball, but we got a big one for football, right? Basketball, it's been announced ECU is going to play George Mason on November 16th, and then the rivalry with UNC Wilmington will continue on December 3rd. How you feeling right now about these non-conference games for basketball?
I like the George Mason. That's a team we played quite a bit in football, so obviously like to have them across all sports is good. I really like the Wilmington one though. Hosting Wilmington, we're the only 2 major programs on the eastern side of North Carolina. It's ECU, it's Wilmington. That's it. You ain't really got nobody else. So to have that in basketball, because obviously they don't have a football program, so basketball, baseball, to have that kind of a 2-headed monster in a rivalry, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, the UNCW, that should be a yearly. I mean,
it should. It just makes sense. ECU, Wilmington, they should always be playing each other.
Yeah, baseball and basketball. Granted, they don't have football, but yeah, I don't see any reason for the 2 programs not to play. And it's always a heated matchup, right? The fan bases, at least the student sections, do not like each other. So that always gets fun watching everybody go at it on Twitter, talking shit. So love that. All right, now football. I hate that this came out when it did because it came out right after we talked about it last week.
Right after we recorded. It was awful. It was awful. It could have been breaking news.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally, I think it was the next day. We recorded, and then the next day it was announced.
Yeah.
ECU, September 1st, Labor Day weekend, 2029. ECU is going to travel down to Clemson, Death Valley. First matchup ever. ECU, Clemson. Already, this is big. And this is one of the ones that we said that we'd like to see this matchup.
Yep. No, now, this is absolutely ginormous. I mean, we talked about it last week. You know, Clemson is the one. I think we had Clemson, we had Tennessee. We were talking about Duke. We were like, nah, we don't want to see Duke, ECU. We had some other ones that we were talking about. Going into Death Valley with the track record that they have, right? You know, having 3 national champions, being a historically great program over the last 30 to 40 years, you know, still probably going to have Dabo Swinney when we go up there, unless something drastic changes. So to have this kind of a game, you know, last year we had the Michigan game. Now to have this kind of going forward, and some of the other big ones that we're going to have, this, I mean, it's huge. I mean, and for us, this is an easy travel, right? Michigan was a hard travel. This is an easy travel getting to Clemson, South Carolina. So
I've already asked my wife what she's doing the first weekend of September 2029. She said, I don't know. It's too early to think about it. I said, well, we're going down to Clemson. So
you don't have to catch a flight to Clemson, South Carolina. You can just get in the car and load up and go.
And already, I've been to a game there, and it is everything that everybody says it is. Like, I had always heard South Carolina was premier SEC like atmosphere, like it was a SEC atmosphere. I didn't feel that when we were there. I didn't feel that at all.
Well, that's partly due to us because we kept the crowd quiet. But
you would think that in a close game and a tight game like that, the fan base would be even louder, right? Now I went to a Clemson game probably back in 2012, I'll say, and it was absolutely it was an amazing time. And what I'll say is Clemson is a lot like Boone, like the layout of the town.
Right, the actual town. It's got to be revolved around just that school, that campus, and there's nothing else going on in Clemson outside of Clemson University.
Right. So I'm excited about it. Good on John Gilbert. And I know people are like, oh, why are we're going to talk about these FCS games that ECU is scheduling. We talked about the Western Carolina game last week, but I mean, we got North Carolina Central on the schedule now. Norfolk State, which we know will play them this year, and then now we're going to play them also in 2030. Look, people are talking about them. You've got to schedule these games, and people are complaining about, oh well, why did we cancel our game with Boise? Why are we canceling games with Marshall? And I understand the sentiment. The Marshall one is questionable to me.
Marshall's questionable. Yes,
I don't know why you cancel that game.
Because to me, that game should last throughout.
I think I would be okay with that game being played every year.
Every single year, right? ECU Marshall is just a game that should be played.
Yeah, that or like an old like ECU Southern Miss, like even if you wanted to switch them out back and forth, Southern Miss and Marshall, like a revolving door of them, I think that would be fine. But I do think that ECU should play Marshall. But what we're seeing is ECU's got to set themselves up to play more regional non-conference games, especially with the way that travel is going in the world of college sports and college athletics as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, I mean, look at the American, man. You got to travel between New York and Houston, Texas, Denton, Texas, right? Like you've got to travel all over the country to play your conference games. So you would hope that your non-conference games, even your away games, are more regionalized because you want your fans to be able to go to those games.
Right.
Like, of course, there's going to be a huge contingent of purple in Clemson because, hey, that's their color too. But it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of Pirates in Clemson. You're going to have a lot of Pirates down there because it's an easy game to travel to.
Right.
Just like Columbia, South Carolina, that's easy. I mean, I would love to see a Coastal Carolina on the schedule. Like that's easy, right? So
also should have been scheduled, in my opinion.
I feel like did we not schedule Coastal? I don't know. But like
it might be like a 2025, 2026.
Even like the Liberty game or the like bringing back James Madison, right? I think scheduling those games, even if they're not the quote unquote P4 games, those non-conference games are easy to travel to. Old Dominion, right? I'd like to see us play Maryland. I think that would be a good travel destination. Looking at Georgia Tech, right? Those places, like I think those are good opportunities for ECU to schedule, and they're not that far away, and I think that's you can drive there in a day. You don't have to fly. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to drive through the night and all day the next day to get somewhere. You can get there driving throughout the day. And I think that's important for ECU, especially with the way the economy is, where things are going in college athletics. And to be honest, Artie, like maybe this is my East Coast bias showing. Out west, there's nothing worthy outside of Oregon and BYU
to go play.
I mean, Southern Cal, but like that, you're not going to LA.
You got Southern Cal, you got San Diego State, you got UCLA.
Yeah, but you're not scheduling San Diego. You're not scheduling a non-Power 4 game against.
I get it.
San Diego State.
It's a nightmare, but the matchup itself.
Yeah.
I mean, San Diego State, ECU. I'd love to see that.
Like BYU, that's great. Like, but at the end of the day, it's not something that. Do our fans really care to see ECU, UCLA? No, they don't.
Not when you know that you can schedule something more regional, bigger, right? When you can possibly get, because if you're going to schedule UCLA, you might as well try to schedule Tennessee. Tennessee's right. That's an easier get. So no, I get it. I get it.
I was right. I wasn't imagining things. We do have Coastal on the schedule in 2025 and 2028. Good on pulling that, Josh. I thought I remembered seeing that. Can I say I hate their turf. I hate the teal turf.
It's not. Yeah, I don't like.
You're not Boise. You're not Boise.
Boise is actually the only one. I'm like, yeah, Boise can get away with it. I don't really like anybody else's.
The Eastern Washington red turf.
They've been successful, so it's somewhat, when you're a successful program, you kind of get away with something like that. But I don't like it, to be honest with you. Boise's the only one. Even with Boise, it's like
I would hate to have to watch it for a full game. Like, I don't know. I'm not.
I feel like it's cool for like a couple of games, but if you're a Boise State fan and you go out there every single home game, you guys see that blue turf, say, okay, I think I'm kind of tired.
That hurt my head. That would hurt my eyes.
We just had some natural grass and just some natural turf. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
But at this point, it's such a thing for them that they can't.
You can't change it. You can't change it
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to keep it, but that's your. Everybody knows the blue turf. That's one of the things that makes that in mid to late 2000s Boise. That is what markets Boise State.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you talk about like the original like Group of Five, putting Group of Five on the map. Like that's Boise State is the original Group of Five. They are the original school, the original team. You know, put everybody, the UCFs, the Houstons, the Cincinnati's. They're the program,
and they've consistently been good. I mean, they're very consistent.
Yep.
But, yeah. Now, if they were in the American, I would love it. But I don't see any way that they're going to join the American. All right. Anything else you want to talk about as far as scheduling goes?
Looking forward to it, baby. I'm just excited for the season. We got football. And football's gonna get here, and so it's just gonna be here around the corner.
I mean, already we're just about. I mean,
we're on July.
We're here next week. We'll be able to say ECU plays football next month.
Whew.
I mean, we're just over 60 days away from East Carolina football.
Don't sleep, people. I keep telling you, don't sleep. It's gonna be here soon. Don't sleep.
This team's going to be scary good. Like, this team has the weapons and has the high-powered offense, has the aggressiveness on both sides of the ball. You didn't lose much on defense, and honestly, you could make a case that the defense is maybe even better than it was last year. And then if you combine that with a high-powered offense, it's gonna be a fun year.
Confident off it. If you have the same defense as last year, or even a little bit better, with a respectable offense, you're talking about 7 wins minimum. You're talking about 7 wins.
I'm starting to get on the bandwagon. Maybe it's me doing the thing that I always do and getting hyped up for a season. I'm starting to lean into the category where if this team doesn't win 7 games, then we have to talk about Coach Houston. But because I think you have to be able to win at least 7.
That's a legitimate conversation. No, that's not even hot. That is a legitimate conversation. The reason why this coaching staff is doing what they're doing in offseason is because that is a legitimate take. That's a legitimate conversation.
Yeah. So I think 7 wins is the absolute floor for Coach Houston this year. That's the expectation, at least. Given the schedule, given the talent you've brought in, given your new high-powered offense, that's I think 7 wins is a must for East Carolina this year. All right. Josh, you wanna hop in here and we'll do this ranking, see how it goes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So this week we're gonna start it off super simple. Get everybody used to it. We're just ranking the athletic program as a whole. These are using the American Conference teams. You got superior. You got the competitive programs. You got your average programs, your poverty programs, and your should be FCS. Because if you're in the American and you're average, you probably should be FCS. Okay, if you're below poverty, I should say. So we got them here. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do this a little bit debate style. Artie's gonna go first, pick his first program and place him, and then if Jared would like to put him somewhere else, then they can go ahead.
I like it.
All right.
And so we're going best program that I feel in the American right now.
You can go any team, anywhere. You can. It's your floor. Any team, anywhere.
If I got first pick, any team anywhere, I mean, obviously I'm saying Tulane. That's my pick right now for superior program in the American Athletic Conference. That is Tulane. They've been the model over the last couple of years. I know they've had a drop off, a little bit, but I don't see them dropping off too much. When I look at the scope of the rest of these teams, Tulane shouldn't drop off that much.
Yeah, I think they're the easiest one. Tulane, in my opinion, is the top team in the American, top athletic program in the American. I mean, they've won back-to-back American Conference championships in baseball, but also you've got the football side of it. Basketball, I mean, they've had glimpses of being really good at times. So all around, I would put Tulane in the superior program.
All right, Jared.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Trying to think of one that's maybe. I'm gonna go. Let's say Tulsa, and I'm gonna put Tulsa in the poverty.
Tulsa in poverty.
The only thing is, I mean, they're not good. They're not good. and they don't have. I mean, granted, they beat us last year, but that was some shady shit.
As it always is.
But as far as like athletic programs go and school size go, they're pretty poverty.
Okay.
Do you have a rebuttal, Artie?
No, I would. I'm of the belief that Tulsa is, to me, more of an average program than a poverty program, because I feel like their football program is not going to be that bad for that long. They're going to be able to put it together at some point. They're going to have some sort of top 25 campaign. They're going to have some sort of 7, 8, 9.
You think Tulsa's going to be a top 25 team at some point?
At some point, and yes, I feel like they're an Oklahoma team. They have these kind of thoroughbreds in their back door. Yes, I think Tulsa's going to be able to pull it together at some point. I do. I truly do think they're going to be able to pull it together. If we're talking top to bottom, all athletic programs, maybe they belong right there at poverty program. But if we're just talking football, yeah, I think their football program is going to be able to put it together at some point.
Hell, if I was playing football,
am I talking like college football playoff? Hell no. But I'm talking respectable. Yeah, I think their football program is going to be respectable.
If I'm a football player in Oklahoma outside of Tulsa, and I can't go to Oklahoma State, Texas, or one of the Texas schools, I mean, I'd almost rather go to Prairie View A&M over.
That's a lie.
Over damn Tulsa.
Stop that.
Prairie View's in Houston.
Stop that.
It's in Houston, Texas.
Exactly.
Stop that. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So are you moving them or are you leaving them?
I think Tulsa's average. I wouldn't put them in poverty. I think they're average.
They're poverty. They're cheeks.
All right. So are we leaving them or are we moving them to average? Jared, are you sticking strong at poverty?
I think they're poverty.
All right. We'll leave it at poverty.
Okay.
Artie, you're up. Take your swing.
All right. I'm gonna put one in the should be FCS. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a big swing here. If we're talking education, then they're obviously a great school to go to. And I'm not talking about Rice. I'm talking about Temple University. Temple should be FCS. That top to bottom, I don't know what they contribute. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they. If we're talking education, I get it. If we're talking athletic prowess, no, that should be an FCS program. And so
maybe I'm just thinking too much about the history and where Temple has been. Like, if you look back 10 years ago, Temple was a pretty damn good football team
under Matt Rule for about 3 years.
And then they were also a pretty good basketball team for a while.
And then what happened?
And then they've fallen off they've fallen off. And I don't know if I would put them in should be FCS. I like their football team at least going into this year. Well, no, I guess they lost EJ Warner.
Winning what, 5 or 6 games?
They lost Warner, so I forgot about that. He actually transferred to Rice.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh great, we're not gonna have to play him, and then Rice shows up on our schedule. I'll say I wouldn't say that they should be FCS. I think there's other programs on here that would make more sense there, but I would probably put
who has done less with more than Temple.
That's a fair point.
Who's done less with more?
That's a fair point.
Pennsylvania. Who's done less with more?
All right, Temple, you suck.
All right, Jared. Let's see what you got.
All right, I'm gonna go Wichita State, and they don't have a football program, so they can't be FCS. But overall, their athletic program should be or is at the very bottom, right? I mean, they don't really.
They had that small little stretch in basketball where they were like kind of great for like 2 years, but like that's really about it.
Yeah, if there was a equal standing in basketball as FCS, like I mean, I guess the closest thing is D2. I mean, they're not historically they're not a bad basketball team. They've also had a decent baseball team, but over the last 3 years, they haven't had a good one of either, right? When ECU is sweeping your ass in basketball, you're pretty cheeks. So Wichita State, you're FCS below MAC.
I actually don't have to complain on that one. I have no rebuttal. I actually agree with that. So,
all righty. Let's hear your next take, Artie.
Ooh, I got to put one in the average programs. So who are we gonna put there? Really, you can put the rest of these teams in.
and you gotta remember, we're not doing just football. This is all sports. This is athletic department.
Ooh. You know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and put Charlotte in that average programs scenario. I'm gonna put them there just because they are a program who understands the market that they're in, understands where they are right now, but they have aspirations, goals, dreams of being something bigger. And I think they did good with hiring Poggi as their head coach in football. I think baseball they're competitive. I think basketball they're getting there. They're making strides. Like they had a pretty good year overall, to be honest with you. So, and I think they're going to build off that, top to bottom. Right now, they're an average program, but I think they have honestly upside. Like Charlotte is a school that has upside to be more than just an average program in the conference. But that's where I got them right now.
Yeah, I think they have the upside in basketball. There's upside in baseball, and I think they're a sleeping giant when it comes to football. I don't know if I agree with the way their football staff is going about recruiting, where they're kind of taking the Deion Sanders route of prioritizing transfers over bringing in high school talent and developing that talent, which we've seen. Hey, you can bring in all the transfers in the world, but a lot of times there's a reason why these guys are coming down from P4 to go G5, right? A lot of times there is that reason. They're not doing it just because they want to. And I think that there's something to be said about developing talent into your system. So yeah, I would put them in as average. I don't think I think that maybe in 2-3 years we could maybe start to see them more in the competitive standpoint, but right now, yeah, they're average. Let's go. I'm going to go with North Texas, and I'm going to put them at average. They're an okay football team. They're okay in they're okay in everything, right? I don't see a problem with having them in average. They're not poverty, because I don't think of them in a bad way, but I also don't think of them in a good way. I honestly forget that they're in the conference. So they're average.
They are the if treading water was a visual, that's North Texas. They tread water. And honestly, had it not been for their basketball team making NIT, I might have put them in the poverty program.
Yeah.
This was a couple years ago. But I mean, honestly, they've always had a pretty, I guess, respectable football program. They've never been trash. They've never been terrible. They've never been good or great. They tread water, and that's what average programs do. They tread water. So yeah, I'd agree. I'd have North Texas as an average program as well. So,
all right.
Competitive programs, just by itself. I gotta put something in the competitive programs. This one's pretty easy to me. Go ahead and throw Memphis in that competitive program bracket. That's just an easy one to me. They're not a superior program, but Memphis to me is not going to be bad for long, and they could be the flag bearer if they really wanted to be. They're in a great market. They got an opportunity to kind of spread their wings and fly. So Memphis, and to me, Memphis is one of those teams with ECU that needs to. Memphis, ECU, Tulane, like that's like a three-headed monster. So I feel like needs to care. FAU, you can throw them in there as well. UTSA, maybe those 5 schools, they kind of need to hold the torch for this conference. So,
yeah, Memphis, their donor base is elite, and they've got the money. You talk about Temple doing less with more. Memphis has kind of been the poster child of doing less with more in the conference.
Yeah. But Memphis ain't Philadelphia.
It's almost worse. But I think Memphis, there's upside there, a lot of upside. And if they can figure it out and really be like the top team in the conference in football, then which they're supposed to be this year, right? They're the favorites going into the season. So if they win an American Conference Championship in football this year and actually figure it out on the hard court in basketball, and then their baseball team is decent, then I'm saying that they're superior.
They just have to get out of their own way. To me, with Memphis, right? When you look at their football and their basketball programs, if Memphis can get out their own way, they really should be the flag bearer of the conference.
And
to be honest,
if there was a tier between competitive and superior, I think that would be a more perfect place for Memphis.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you on that. Like they're competitive. All right. I guess I'll piss a bunch of people off.
Do it.
I want to go. I see Josh hovering towards the place where I'm going. I'm going to say USF, and they are average. You want to talk? We talk about doing less with more. That's USF, and the amount of USF fans that talk shit and can't keep their mouth shut any day of the week, it's terrible. Like, you are basically, I mean, there's not much difference between you and ECU right now, right? The only you had a stellar year in basketball that came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting that. Nobody was expecting that from you, right? Congratulations, good job on it. But that's all you are right now, right? You haven't proven anything in football. You haven't proven anything in baseball. You had one good season in basketball, and you think that you should run the conference. I mean, you're lucky you're not in the poverty program. You can't fill out your stadium unless Alabama comes in. Like, I get it. You play in a NFL stadium. You're getting the new on campus stadium, but right now you're average and could be borderline poverty if you don't start seeing results, because you are getting it into the territory of you've got all this money, you've got all the accolades of being a top research school in the country, but you don't do shit. So, and the South Florida fans that are online, there's a couple of them. I'm sure they're going to love this, but they can kiss my ass and walk the damn plank.
I think you were being generous. I'd put him in poverty. If I can be honest with you, you're in the same state with Florida State, Florida, Miami, and Central Florida, who has been blowing the doors off of y'all. If we talk group of 5 teams, so you're in Tampa, Florida.
What has South Florida done?
You're in Tampa, Florida, and you're surrounded by great talent, great resources, great this, great that, and the fact that you just now. Basketball, obviously, they did their thing, and football. I think football kind of underperformed with what they could have done this past season. But I would have had them as a poverty program if we're just basing off historical standpoint. Truthfully,
yeah, you're up.
Oh man. Where do I want to go? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and give Rice some love, man. I'm gonna throw him as an average program. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this Rice. Rice is like historically, when I think of Rice, I've always thought of you go there for an education. You never go there for athletics, right? Like if you're going to Rice University, it's because you have dreams, goals, and aspirations of being something in the world outside of being an athlete. That's why you go. So the fact that they're even an average program to me at this point, kudos to them, because I think that they've done their thing over the last year or two, and I think their football program is going to get better. I don't think it was a one-off. I think Rice is going to be legitimate. I think they're going to be okay. Not saying they're going to be great, but I think they're going to be okay. And I also think that their other programs are going to be all right as well, competing in the American. So I got them as average right now.
Yeah, I would, if they can figure out like how to be just a little more competitive in athletics, I would put them in a highly and up there closer to Memphis, because they have the capability. They're in Houston.
Right.
They've got the money. Yes, it's a smaller school, but there's a lot of pride. I see a lot of people, even here. I see people with Rice stuff all the time.
If you tell somebody, I graduated from Rice, like that's legit.
People's ears perk up.
Yeah.
And they have history in baseball. Granted, that was 20 years ago, but there is history there, and I think that they could get back to that. I don't want to put them in poverty, and they're not competitive, so I think I think they're just average. All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go UTSA, and I think that they're a competitive program. Okay. Like their football team, basketball, they can be good in baseball. We saw they took 2 out of 3 from us earlier in the year. UTSA has the money. They're building something. They're not quite the superior program in the American, but out of the crop of teams that we brought in, or schools we brought in, they're the one that gets the juices going a little bit more for me. I think that they're better than the teams that the programs we've got right now in the average section. So I would have to put them with competitive.
Okay. I think their football is carrying the flag for them. I really do. I would say outside of that, I think they're more just average, but I'm not upset with the competitive tier just because that they could be a team that walks away with the American in football this year if they really wanted to be. And they're in San Antonio and they're going to have a good following and people love them some UTSA. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I might have personally put them in average, but I'm not mad at the competitive. So, all right, we're getting to the nitty gritty now. I hate to do this. I do. Tulsa's lonely down in the poverty program, so I got to put somebody else in that poverty spot. Go ahead and throw Navy in there, Josh. Go ahead and yeah. They just are. They're just a poverty program. They're
unless they play East Carolina.
Unless they play ECU, they're just a poverty program. Football. I mean, look under Coach Kent. Obviously, they had a great run under Coach Kent, but they've fallen off. I think top to bottom, basketball, baseball, whatever other program they've got. It's just not. I mean, you don't look at Navy and think of top tier athletic performances, and when you do, they have kind of like a one-off season where they have this magical 8, 9, 10 win season, but then it kind of just goes back to normal. So, yeah, I gotta put Navy in their triple option in the poverty programs.
Yeah. There's times where I think that Navy should be FCS or below MAC. And it pains me to say that. But
right.
they also are a program that has historically beaten ECU, right? Even even in our best years, if we play Navy, it's a terrible day for us. Now, hey, I want to give a shout out to our good friend of the podcast, Pete Medhurst.
Yes, Pete's that guy,
play-by-play voice of the midshipmen. I'm gonna leave them there. Like if we're looking at the athletic department as a whole, you could probably move them up a little bit. They have some other programs that are really pretty decent, but as far as what they bring to the American, outside of the Army Navy game and outside of just being, a service academy, yeah, I think that they're poverty a poverty program. I guess we got to do Army. Army's interesting. They've been more competitive, more consistently, but Navy has they're more competitive, but Navy does have the one-off year where they get ranked in the top 25 and they're elite. Right. Army, on the other hand, has been very average and very consistent over long periods of time. They have their down years here and there, but I would put them in the average. And also, they, like, knowing what I know about them, they've got a decent basketball program. They've got a pretty good baseball program. So I'm going to put them in average. Like, I see them a lot. I see a lot of what they do, and I think it's not elite, but it's not shit. And it's the Army.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I do tend to agree. I mean, that's probably what it should be. There's an argument that can be made they should be a poverty program, but I would.
Yeah, like it's just it's hard for me. They've done more than Navy over history. So I'm saying Army.
Okay.
And I like the ad. I like bringing them in. I hate that we're gonna have to see the triple option twice, but
Facts.
I like that while it's not an American Conference game, I do like that the Army Navy game is an American Conference game. Not technically, but it is.
Oh man, okay. I'm out. Let's see. Last three.
This is hard because I feel like we have a lot of the same feelings on some of these.
You know, UAB just doesn't move the needle for me. I'm sorry, they just don't. And they had a decent football season a couple years ago, and they got Trent Dilfer, and it didn't work out. First year under Trent, hopefully it works out. But I'm gonna say, yeah, Josh, you're right. Yeah, go ahead, and I'm not gonna disrespect him as FCS. Go ahead, poverty program. I'm gonna say you at UAB. I'm not gonna disrespect them. I don't think they're on Temple or Wichita State level, but I do think they're a poverty program. They just don't move the needle in any aspect whatsoever. They just don't move the needle for me at all. And I don't ever see them being a legitimate flag bearer. I could be wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong because I like UAB, but they just don't move the needle for me, honestly.
So, yeah, I don't ever see them being a top program in the conference, but I don't think that they're a poverty program. I don't think they're on the same wavelength as Tulsa. I would move them to average.
Okay.
I think they're average. They've got a decent basketball program. Baseball, but football, like they have shown glimpses to be competitive. And if Rice is in average and UAB is in poverty, there's a problem.
I get that. I do get that. I get where you're coming from on that. I get where you're coming from on that. I feel like Rice has a better opportunity to move up in the ranks of this conference than UAB.
I don't.
To me.
If I could, I would move. Like I if we were trading places, I would trade Rice for UAB, knowing what I know now.
Okay. We agree to disagree, Jared. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, I Josh, move them up to average. They've got a
strong feeling.
I like them in the average part.
Hey, hold on. Whoever picks ECU, that's what the people watching for. So
you guys are avoiding the question. The question's there.
I thought we were doing something already. I thought we were saving them to the last. I thought we were making the people wait.
Oh no, let's absolutely save ECU for last. Go ahead.
All right, Florida Atlantic. I think there's a ton of potential here. Ton of potential. If they could, and we know what they did in basketball a couple years ago, if they could get rid of those god-awful unis in baseball, I think they'd be fine. And I think football being in Boca, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of opportunity there for them. Yeah, I'm putting them in competitive. I do think that FAU could be competitive in the American Athletic Conference. Maybe they're not right now. Maybe they're a little bit more average. But looking at what the athletic department is and where they're going and their ability to attract high-quality coaches, I'm putting them in competitive.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you on this one, but like their basketball program has done something no other basketball program in this conference has done. They've been to a Final Four. They can say that. We went to a Final Four. We have a legitimate, basketball. Maybe some of them other. I don't know if Temple went back in like the 30s or 40s or whatever.
I'm pretty sure Temple has been.
They've probably been to a Four.
When none has Memphis been to a Final Four?
I don't think Memphis been to a Final Four. They definitely been to a Sweet 16, maybe an Elite Eight. I don't know if they been to a Final Four, but either way, FAU basketball program, football program is not going to be bad going forward. I think they're going to be very, very competitive in their baseball program. I think Boca Raton in Florida having all that great talent in their back door. I agree. I think they're a competitive program. I will put them there as well.
All right. Artie.
And last but certainly not least,
the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. East Carolina University. Are we so I'm gonna get this out of the way. They're not the bottom two, and they're not superior. They're either competitive or average. That's where I'm putting ECU.
I agree. I agree with that. So, where would you put them, Marty? Because either way, I can debate you off the face of the earth.
I'm thinking honestly, we're being carried by our baseball program right now. If I can be completely honest with you, I think our basketball program is atrocious.
Yeah,
and it's been atrocious since the dawn of man.
Which, I mean, last year it was one of the best season we've had since joining the American.
And historically, our football program has always been respectable, but we've dipped. And so right now, I got to put us in average. If I'm putting us in a tier, I put ECU at average simply because we're being carried off the backs of one particular sport, and the rest of these sports are not really holding their weight the way I think they should be. So I'll put them at average.
I would agree with that for the most part. What I will say is if I'm putting Florida Atlantic in competitive because of their potential, then honestly, I should probably put Charlotte and ECU in that section, and you can make a case for South Florida. I think those three schools are sleeping giants, and maybe that's a different conversation in a different tier, right? Altogether is sleeping giants. Like if they figure this shit out, they're gonna run the show. I don't have any qualms with ECU being average, but I would, just knowing our fan base and knowing the potential at ECU, if football can get going, if Mike Houston and company can figure it out this year and have a damn good year and get the train rolling in the right direction, and basketball improves on what they did last year, and then baseball does what they've consistently done for the last decade, it would be hard to not make a case for this team or this program to be at least in competitive, if not superior, because there's so much potential in East Carolina University from an athletic standpoint, because we know that ECU can do it. Like, and that's not me being biased. We've seen it. Go back a decade, right? We've seen it, and we've seen what happens when ECU gets rolling, right? They had a 3-year stretch there where it was absolutely like we went into every game thinking we were going to win, right? ECU can get back there, I believe, in football. And basketball, I don't ever think we're going to be a top team in basketball. Maybe I'm wrong.
Respectable.
But
at this point, if you're a coherent ECU fan, you just want to be respectable.
If you're challenging for 2 conference titles a year in the top 3 sports, which I think ECU will be after with the changes that they've made this past offseason, I would put ECU in the competitive program, and I would do it because of what I said about FAU. FAU is a sleeping giant. UTSA is a sleeping giant. I think ECU is a sleeping giant as well. So
I can see it.
Maybe it. Artie, we're gonna get skewered either way. I would put us in I really do think that there should be a tier between competitive and average, like the sleeping giants, and I would put Charlotte, South Florida, and East Carolina in that tier,
in that category. Okay.
Like, and I Josh, you didn't see what I did there with putting North Texas right behind Charlotte, did you? University of North Texas. No, nobody. Okay.
Explain. You gotta explain now.
Just use your brain. I can't say it. We're on YouTube.
Spell it out. Spell it out.
Okay. Yeah, I got it now.
ECU.
I got it.
I got it. What do we say at the top of the podcast? This is not a
PG
show.
podcast.
Sorry. No, yeah, I would. I think those three are sleeping giants. And Josh, if you wanted to make a another tier and said sleeping giant, I think that those are above average programs.
I'm curious to know how Josh feels about this list in totality.
This is how I feel about the list. This is my list. You got Tulane.
We're pretty close.
Yeah, we're all pretty close. Tulane is superior. You're right. Competitive programs overall across the board. UTSA, ECU.
Okay.
Just because any given night, ECU basketball could have won a game.
That's true. And you could very well say the same thing about ECU football.
I mean that's true, but we see the same record every year.
4 losses last year in football.
I'm tired of seeing that record about we could have beat them on any given night. We see the same record every year.
Here's the thing, okay? You got ECU where women's basketball 2 years ago was the same as men's basketball this year. The only difference is Magic struck the women's team during the conference tournament and they won it. If the men's team would have gotten the same kind of strike of genius in the tournament, it would have been the exact same story. An 8 seed overcoming the rest of the conference and going to the tournament, right?
I agree with that, but I want to throw the caveat out there that I think that there is more disparity in the women's side of things than on the men's, at least in basketball. Like I like, and that's a good thing, right? That's not for people that don't know, like that's not a bad thing for the women's. It's just saying I think that there's more teams that are bunched up in women's basketball than there are in men's. You have your elite teams in the conference in men's basketball, and you've got your absolute garbage teams in the conference in men's basketball. In women's, you go into the conference tournament, I think anybody could almost win on any given conference tournament.
I'll explain Wichita State and poverty real quick, because that one, you don't have football. So where's your NIL money when it comes to basketball and baseball? Where's the money?
It's out in a cornfield.
Do you not have any donors?
That sounds like a Wichita State problem, not a us problem.
No, very true, and that's why they're in poverty. That's why they're in poverty. Navy and Army, they're in poverty also with Wichita State because they are not full members.
Yeah.
Do it all or do none.
I almost went with that, but I understand.
I understand the Patriot great and all.
I understand wanting to stay in the Patriot League, but I wish they would just like stop messing around and just join the conference. But I know why they don't. But the same reason that they don't is the same reason that they were independent in football for so long, right? And
exactly.
In football, they were independent for so long because it helped with being able to recruit nationally. Now that they're in the American, they're in a conference, it's easier for them to schedule nationally and go to the American has a lot of big cities in the conference. You look at Tampa, you look at Charlotte, you look at New Orleans, San Antonio, Memphis, Philadelphia, right? Houston. You've got all these major cities, major hubs. So that's why they're joining. And it would be huge if they could just bring in Air Force and call it a day.
Very true.
The best service academy program is Air Force, to be honest with you. But
yeah, right now, yeah. They're probably overall the best service academy for if you're looking at all programs. And that's what I tried to do when talking Navy and Army. But I can understand you putting them both in poverty.
And then Temple should be FCS. Go play Villanova. Stop playing us. I don't want to see you anymore. Tulsa should be FCS. You're in Oklahoma. You're not Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. There's only 2 schools in Oklahoma in real life. Go somewhere, please. And that is the explanation of my list.
Okay.
Love it.
Off. We're pretty similar on all these. So
I think we're pretty similar on all these. Yeah, we'll have to post this and see what everybody thinks. Part of me wants to say ECU's in the competitive because I really do believe it with every fiber of my being, but maybe that's just my bias. I'd like to, Josh, did you talk about that? I guess you did when we were talking about the basketball part of it. God, I think go back, move ECU up. I think ECU, if they're like Florida Atlantic, in my opinion, I think ECU's in the competitive program.
So on the group list, you're putting them at competitive.
Yes.
Artie, could you agree with that?
Nah, I still got them as average. I need more consistency.
I think that there needs to be a level between competitive and average.
Call it ECU. We're not competitive. We're not average either. I mean, that's what you're saying.
I'm saying sleeping. I'm saying sleeping giant.
I've heard sleeping giant since I was 17 years old about East Carolina, man.
He's never waking up.
Now, when that motherfucker wake up, it might be something.
Fum. Oh God! All right, that was fun. We'll have to do more of those. We'll do more as the summer rolls along. All right, what's next? We got walk the plank and gambling corner. Artie, you want to take walk the plank first?
Ooh, walk the plank. What do I have? Do I even have a walk the plank this week?
I do.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I have a walk the plank this week. I don't. Basically, everything's kind of over. The only thing going on is baseball, majorly. So, no, I don't really have a walk the plank.
Yeah. The Texas A&M coach leaving for Texas. Not 24 hours after, like
I knew you were taking this one anyway. So
and Brandon texted it, but like as soon as I saw it, I was like, "That's a walk the plank. That's a huge walk the plank." Wow. 24 hours saying like, "Oh yeah, I came here. I left my family to come here. I'm never leaving. I don't want to leave. I'm not looking anywhere else." And less than 24 hours later, you are headed to Austin. That's your new place. You take your whole coaching staff, and then like it's a mass exodus in the transfer portal for Texas A&M. That is, I mean, it's absolutely brutal. But at the same time, it couldn't have happened to a better program. Texas A&M sucks.
Can you imagine Mike Houston coming out saying something about ECU and like, this is the last job I ever wanted to have. This is my home. This is my heart. and like the very next day he goes to NC State and becomes the head coach at NC State. Like that's
would I at all be surprised by that?
That's the equivalency. It's like, yo, like what? What?
No, yeah, it's right at that level. That was brutal, and then it starts coming out that this may have been a deal that was done back before the regionals even started.
Oof.
There's reports out there that and Schlossnagel, I think that's how you pronounce his name, even said like, yeah, this didn't happen. Like, we didn't talk in Omaha. You can tell the truth without telling the truth, right? It may not have happened in Omaha. This conversation may have happened in College Station 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago. Right? That's what I'm talking about. There's some shady stuff going on that honestly the NCAA should look into. Because there was some obvious things going on, and it's very similar to Zach Root announcing he's gonna transfer the day after giving up the 3-run bomb that sent ECU packing in the regionals. Right? He had already made up his mind that he was leaving. Now, granted, the coach Schlossnagel got Texas A&M to the championship game. I mean, they went to a winner take all game,
right?
And he got them there. And to leave a program after you do that, and to take the whole staff with you.
But you left them for their biggest rival. That's what throws, like, that's the spit in the face in that. It's like, you didn't just leave. You left us for Texas. Like, you left for the biggest rival that we have in our eyes.
And also, already the fact that, like, he went after the reporter, like the way he talked to the reporter for asking the question. I mean, come on, man. You can't do that.
Right.
Like, if especially if you already know, right? Like, maybe say something along the lines of, I'm weighing my options. I really love it here. But to say, like, you got a lot of balls to ask me that question here. Like, at this point, like, we just lost. This isn't the time or place, blah, blah, blah. No, it is the time and place. And the guy was just doing his job, and you skewered him for it. So, Coach, you can walk the damn plank. Schlossnagel. And that's a terrible name.
Schlossnagel.
All right. Artie, let's do a gambling corner. We're just going to go through some of these. Josh, these are picks for the absolute degenerates. That's what this is.
Chef's kiss on these.
Love it.
All right. The way too early week 1 bets.
The sickos right here.
This is absolute sicko behavior. If you're placing a bet on these games this early, you call 1-800-GAMBLER because you got gambling problems. Brandon texting, you already know I'm the degenerate gambler. Brandon put together a parlay on these games that we're about to go through and send in the group chat. All right. First up, Akron at Ohio State. Ohio State's a 49.5 point favorite. The over under 56.5.
Yeah, take it. Take the over. Take Ohio State by whatever they take. Come on now. Akron's just here for a check, man. Akron's so happy to get their check. They so happy to get their check.
This game's gonna be one of those 70-0 games.
Akron's
This
gonna
game may end 70-2 because Ohio State kneels it in their own end zone.
Akron's gonna come up to Columbus just so happy, like, oh, we got that fat check. Go on, score them 6, 7, 8 touchdowns y'all about to score. Come on now.
Oh. All right, next is Colorado State at Texas. Texas is a 35.5-point favorite, over under 16.5. Look, I'll say this. Colorado State, I'm not saying that they're going to make it a close game, but I could see them covering 35.5.
They're going to compete. They're going to be competitive. They actually have they got a dog for a coach. I will say that. He, obviously going back from last year, they're going to lose by a lot, but they're going to be competitive for a quarter and a half. They're going to make it look decent for a half, and then they're just going to lose by a lot.
Yeah. Colorado State covers. Texas money line. I'm taking the over. This one's not as sicko. The next two really aren't. But if you're like betting on this game and you're not a fan of these two teams, what the hell are you doing with your life? Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's
such a random matchup. V Tech at Vanderbilt. That is random as hell.
It's like the bottom feeders of the ACC and SEC. Like when you hear, oh, this is an ACC versus SEC matchup, you can make the
it's like, oh, what? Stop.
What? What?
Yeah, that's random as hell.
Oh. Vanderbilt is a 13.5-point dog.
Yeah, I would take VT in this one. I don't really know much about either team. Why should I? But I do know that Virginia Tech is probably going to be competitive. I think they should have been, or they came on late last year, so they're probably going to ride that momentum, and they're like probably going to be a top 5, top 6 team in the ACC going into this year. So,
are they still trying to rebuild the Vanderbilt Stadium? Did that ever?
I was going to ask, are they going to have that done?
I don't think it's going to be done, but it will. It is scheduled to be there. It is scheduled to be at that stadium, at First Bank Stadium.
State of the art stadium for all those ass whoopings.
And you look at that stadium, and then you look at Northwestern this year. Northwestern's going to be playing on an intramural football field.
But Northwestern's new stadium, though, when it's done, it is going to be absolutely beautiful. It's going to be right there on the lake.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great for all that lake effect snow and mid football.
Hey, look, if you're from Chicago, you know what it is. You ain't complaining about nothing.
Chi-town. I'm from Tinley Park.
Tinley Park, baby.
Over under 53.5. I think there's going to be not many points scored. I'm going to say under. I think this is going to be as if Iowa was playing. And then lastly, Artie, this is a good one. Clemson versus Georgia.
Woo!
Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite, over under 47.5. I'm right now, I would take Clemson to cover, but we all know what Georgia can do.
Right.
And it's going to be a redemption year. They missed out on the college football playoff last year, and after honestly, they should have made it in, not Alabama, but that's just my 2 cents. Over under 47.5. I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I would say take the over. I do think they're both gonna. This is one of those matches where they feel each other out for the first 2.5 quarters, and then it kind of picks up from there.
Josh,
seems steep though. I do think Clemson, because I feel like. Go ahead.
Is this game in Atlanta?
Yes, it is. Yeah, in Atlanta.
Yeah, so it's a Georgia home game.
Basically.
It's a Georgia home game, basically. Except for it's in Atlanta. Satellite campus.
Might as well be Athens.
Right, that's a Georgia home game. We'll be honest. Clemson's going to travel. It's not like that's a far reach for Clemson. They're going to travel, but that's definitely a Georgia home game. Give me Georgia, but I think that's going to be such a barn burner of a week 1 game. I mean, that's good. Georgia Clemson off the top rope.
Brandon just texted the group chat. He placed a bet. Brandon, I hope you don't mind me putting this out there in the world. He's got Akron plus 49.5, over 56.5 in that game. Colorado State to cover, under 60.5. This isn't bad. I might tell you on this. Virginia Tech money line,
Yep.
under 53.5. Over 47.5, Georgia Clemson, Georgia to cover the spread at 13.5. $5 to win 706.
706.
It's not terrible. That's the odds on that are. Let's see. What Brandon, text me the odds. What you got? It's like what, plus 3,500, something like that. Not terrible. Or 35,000. Not a math guy. ECU education.
I'm not East Carolina education, baby. Go ahead.
All right. Plus 14,025. Not bad. Good job, Brandon. All right, Marty.
I would like to make a note. Quick note.
Go ahead.
Quick note.
Yeah.
No more Chick-fil-A kickoff. It's now the Aflac kickoff. Even though it's Clemson versus Georgia, that's the most Chick-fil-A.
That's the most Chick-fil-A
game I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And now it's the Aflac kickoff game.
Wow. Okay.
There are. I do want to give a shout out. Week 1, the Dakotas have the absolute best opportunity to do the funniest thing possible. North Dakota State plays Colorado. South Dakota State plays Oklahoma State.
Oh, wow. And those are 2 legitimate programs. If you watch college football, you know North Dakota State and South Dakota State are legitimate football programs. So
watch out for that. I'm gonna have my eyes on those 2 games.
I love it.
How is NC State Tennessee not out? Oh, here it is. Ooh, this is gonna be a good game. NC State Tennessee.
That's week 1?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tennessee's a 4.5 point favorite, over under 56.5.
Yeah, take the over. Take the over. I think, I would love to see, obviously I'd love to see Tennessee blow them out in that game, which could happen, but that's going to be a game.
It's going to be a good one.
State's going to be decent, sadly.
There's a lot of interesting games week 1. Alabama at Wisconsin is really interesting. That's a random ass game, and Alabama with a new head coach. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm done.
We've gone 90 minutes, 94 minutes to be exact.
Shout out Variety Sports Network for letting us do what we do. Shout out the College Huddle for all the help they do. Make sure you follow us on social media at Boneyard Podcast, at the Boneyard Podcast on TikTok.
Yep.
Subscribe if you're watching on Twitter right now. Go subscribe over on our YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you follow us on Twitter. That way you never miss when we go live. We're going to do this. We've been doing it for a while now. Don't miss it. We love doing it. And subscribe. Help us get our subscriber numbers up. I think we're pushing 100 subscribers on YouTube, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're two guys that didn't really start with YouTube and we were late to the game in YouTube, it's slowly building. So go subscribe right now. If you're driving, pull over, and yeah. All right, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever. Do that. You're a friend of the podcast for life. If you don't already, what can they do?
Walk the damn plank.
For sure. All right. Well, good episode, y'all. We will not have an episode next week, and quite possibly maybe taking the next 2 weeks off as travel is getting busy. We're in the thick of things.
Summertime.
But stay tuned. Maybe we'll drop
families too.
Maybe we'll drop a mini episode somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
All right.
Get out of here. As always, Pirate Nation, it was a pleasure. We appreciate you always tuning in. Thank you so much. And as always, wash your hands, wash your butts. Deuce.
Peace.